Good morning, Paul Richards. Good morning to you, my friend. You're muted.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Wendell. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
I have to do a Richard this morning.
Hi, morning, Paul, morning, Steve, morning, Richard, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's Wednesday morning, and we're happy to be in the land of the living. Today is the 16th, 17th?
17th.
17th. It's somebody's birthday. One of my family members' birthday. I know that for sure.
Really?
So happy birthday.
Okay. Of course, today, and let me get it off the gate first. Let me wait till Richard comes in. I'll wait till Richard comes in. And then we'll go from there.
All right. Let me see if I find other birthdays. All right. Paulie James, happy birthday. Joanne Dabro, that's Sterling's mom, happy birthday. Terry Marchand, Shian De Silva, he is from Valencia. Is Valencia area? Yes, Shian is from Valencia. Marina, no, she passed away recently. Let me know say that was somebody who passed away very recently. And Sherilyn Edwards Valenella and Blaine Edwards, that's the son of Elvin Edwards. He is celebrating his birthday today. Nissa Ross, I think she is from the Moor area. Happy birthday. Yesterday was Sir Charles's birthday. You all remember to wish him happy birthday?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we couldn't forget that.
All right, okay. All right. I didn't realize that until later in the afternoon. I say, hey, Sir Charles' birthday, man. I wonder if they wish him happy birthday. Yeah. So those are my birthdays today. Was there some? I mean, we do ever like to talk about it, but because it's news, was there some situation in Moor last night too?
Yeah, 3 men shot dead.
Oh Lord.
8 men shot, 3 died, I should say.
8 people got shot there?
8 people were shot, 3 died.
Wow.
Between sleep and wake, when I came home from the function and I looked at my phone, I glimpsed at this and I said, maybe that's old news. And I just went back.
Men pulled up in a black X-Trail and in police uniform, no doubt.
Oh, goodness.
What?
Yeah, in police uniforms and police garb. Let me say not full uniform, police garb. Or garb that looked like police uniforms. And told the men stay put. So, of course, if people feel it was police, you're going to stay put. You're not going to run, you understand?
Yeah.
And as they stayed put, they opened fire on them. So,
oh, geez, honey,
this is not the first time that this has happened with the black X-Trails. Now, the police use a lot of black X-Trails. A lot of them are unmarked, right? But you see them with the blue light. They're very darkly tinted, and you see them with the blue light. And but some of the other, nobody ever gets a number. Because the police would know a number plate if they know it's one of theirs.
Yeah, and that's presuming the number plate will remain the same after the incident.
Well,
people invent. You could go and get any number plate anywhere, you know.
Yeah,
that is true.
You could go and get a number plate that says PDK 1552, or you could go and get one that says Z25 2252.
Yeah,
that's
stuff
true.
on the vehicle.
True.
So that ain't gonna make much difference in the long run. That usually leads nowhere.
True. Well, it led somewhere for me yesterday because I had an incident yesterday at our place on the main road where someone came in. Because it's open, it's on the Western Main Road, it's open. There's a walk-in gate. You can't drive in because the gate is an automatic gate. But there's a walk-in component of the gate that remains unlocked most times because there are people accessing it in and out. Workers come in all hours of the morning and so on to get to work and whatnot, right? So, but a guy walked in and stole our fans. And an industrial fan that I have had for more than 15 years, I actually brought that fan back from Miami. And come with a car. Well, he came the first time. He came at 1 o'clock. Just after 1 o'clock in the morning, picked up one of the standing fans and walked out the gate. 3 hours later, comes back to steal the industrial fan. Now, the industrial fan is very heavy, right? So he came with a car, and the car parked up right in front of the gate. And you're looking up and you're seeing cameras. These guys don't care, you know.
No, they don't care.
They don't care.
They don't think law enforcement is coming for them.
No.
And that's the problem in the country. When we spoke to Minister Hines on Monday night, and he talked about the public participating, and I raised the topic of, well, that has to be in conjunction with public trust and confidence. He ignored that comment, you know, just was going on about what he wanted to go on about, didn't really address the issues that we raised with him, you know,
Right.
and elongated passages of government policies that are clearly not working. So it was, as I said yesterday, I left that interview with feeling no more confident or no more safe than I did before.
Yeah.
Because it was just a lot of talk.
Yeah, but you see, I mean, and so he left. They put the fan in the car, in the vehicle, a white Serena wagon, and drive off. And so
That's a 7-seater.
yeah, 7-seater.
A HCK.
Yeah.
I just saw a video of that.
4142. That's by in front by me. That's in front by me, and I'm saying, but these people crazy. Anyway, he is no longer at the address because I did the investigative work for the TTPS. I mean, they would have done it. They did it too, eventually. But I got the name and the number and the address for the vehicle owner and so on. And they went yesterday. He no longer lives there, you know. But you know, it is just, and I'm telling this story to Richard yesterday. And I say, Richard, you see why crime really can't done? Because imagine I was of a different type of person. And I see that. What do? And I tell myself, I don't have confidence in the police. I am reporting this. I go and find them fellas. Imagine that.
That's not a very good idea.
No, I'm just saying those are the things that people do. I know people do those things.
Yeah, I just saw that video. What time of the morning was that?
Just after 4 in the morning. He came at 1 o'clock and then back 3 hours later. Same guy. Find out after he's a coke addict and all manner of things. But, you know, these guys, they just don't care. And they're distressing people. You understand? And don't care. It is so obvious I have cameras. You understand?
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that was by you. I just saw the video and I said, okay.
It's a lot of
And
conversation
a
about
mature gentleman.
Huh?
He's
Yes.
a mature gentleman.
Yes.
Sorry, Paul, what are you saying?
Well, the issue of crime was the topic of the UNC's first anti-crime forum on Monday night. And as I said, yes, I commend them for doing this because I think some different approach needs to be taken. Not that I agree with the state of emergency, I don't. But in terms of having those conversations with the public, you know, yes, they will become political at times, but I think it's a good initiative. And I'm hoping that some recommendations come out from the public and the public gets a chance to share their experiences because it's affecting everybody.
Well, you know, Paul, I have no problem with the UNC doing what they want to do, and I don't think anybody could object to what they're doing. But at the end of the day, it'll just be bashing. It'll just end up being a bashing session for the government and for the minister and for this and for that. And you're not if ideas come out of it. I mean, it's still early days. I don't know if they have it anymore. If ideas come out of it. Because when I listened to the clip that you all played yesterday, I was able to listen to your program briefly yesterday. And I'm hearing retired Superintendent Johnny Abraham basically admitting he had a particular style that to me was breaking the law. You understand? Because I
didn't hear that he intonated that.
Okay, play it over and I'll tell you where. He said.
Because he said that, well, if they, I'll find it and play it. I don't want to endorse that you said he had a style that broke the law because you're implying
that was my interpretation
that he broke the law in enforcing the law. And I don't have any evidence to support that.
People who come into Central Trinidad and
right. And by saying that, you are implying that the former senior superintendent broke the law to enforce the law. And I don't have evidence to support that.
Okay, listen to what he said.
And I am saying that you said he had a particular style that broke the law.
That's my interpretation of it.
Right. And I'm saying that I will not endorse that you saying.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah, but I have to distance myself from the statement.
From my statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because you're implying that the gentleman broke the law in your statement.
I'm implying that what I heard seemed to indicate that. That's what I'm implying.
Right. Well, that's not my impression of what he said.
Okay.
Right.
Anyway, but
the main thing coming out of the forum was that the UNC feels that a state of emergency is warranted. We had a poll on it yesterday. Mrs. Pasabi's assistance clarified, because I didn't think so yesterday. I think any state of emergency is going to be a short-term measure, and it's not going to be sustainable. Right? That can't be the answer to fighting crime. Better policing and law enforcement is the answer to fighting crime in the country.
So what did she clarify?
She said that it's intended to be a short-term measure. Well, of course, and politicized in the end and said that until the government changes.
Exactly. Everything will be politics.
Right.
Even retired police officer Abraham went down that road about how they get how much percentage on the camera.
Right, but he did to be politicized it in the end of his statement.
Yes.
That I agree with.
Yes.
Well, Gary Griffith, who will be our guest after 7 o'clock, I hear he's coming for me.
Is that so?
Yeah. Is that the opinion that
for you? I mean, well, yeah, be coming for all of it. I mean, he coming for you.
We'll see when he comes on at 7:10. He said, in his opinion, this is from the Express this morning, that he doesn't believe that that's the answer. And SOE is an option, but not the real answer to fighting crime. You know?
But he was there at the forum, not so?
Yes, he spoke.
So did he say that at the forum, or he saying that after the fact?
Well, I'm quoting from the Express this morning, so I didn't hear his whole presentation at the forum. So maybe he said it, I don't know. But the Express is quoting him as saying, I think the Express interviewed him after that and said that he doesn't think it's warranted. It's an option, but it would be the last resort. And of course, he spoke about policies, units, programs, equipment, technology that will have a more long-lasting and more sustainable effect. I think, and Minister Stuart Young at the PNM had a mixer last night. Yeah, you're asking me why you sent a message and I wasn't there. If you think they call me PNM Paul, no, you can imagine a picture of me in the PNM mixer.
But with you're a member of the media.
Yeah, and there's some things I don't go to, but I also hold a different portfolio to other members of the media. You understand?
You could have won the trip to New York.
Yeah, I don't need to win a trip to New York. So.
I missed the New York right there, you know. But you missed a nice time, though.
It looked like a nice time, but I didn't think it was appropriate for me to attend.
Well, people asked for you. Minister Imbert asked for you, and he also implied that Paul is his friend. And Paul,
I'm friends with everybody in the parliament.
Paul favors him. I say, I'm going on radio and say
Paul
that tomorrow.
Favors him.
Hold on. I tell him, I say, Minister, I'm going on radio in the morning and I'm going to say you said that.
Paul favors him. I don't know what he means by that. Maybe we should have him on to clarify that. Paul Anyway, so you could imagine they get a picture of me among, and I understand it was a media event, but as I said, I hold a different portfolio to other media persons. Was Suniti Mirage there?
I didn't see her.
Right, and I'm not surprised that she didn't go either, because it's hosted by a political party.
Yeah, but there were quite a lot of members of the media.
Of course,
arms of the media there.
Anyway, Minister Young, when interviewed at that event yesterday, he dismissed the idea of a state of emergency. And he reminded people of the last SOE in 2011. The Prime Minister was also asked about the state of emergency, and he said he put the opposition and the country on notice that he plans to respond to the issue of crime talks, but presumably the UNC crime talks at a meeting in San Juan. It says tomorrow night in the article, but that doesn't mean tonight or Thursday night.
It's Thursday night.
It's Thursday night, right? So it's correct. So it's on Thursday night. So the Prime Minister will respond to that the issue of crime talks, and I guess an SOE at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But and I guess, but I hope he answers the question of why he's chosen not to chair the proposed crime talks with the government and the and the opposition also, because I also think he should chair that meeting. We've put that on record already several times.
The UNC needs to admit that that SOE did not work back then. It did not work.
I don't know that rounds up 400 or 500. I don't know that rounds up 400 or 500 black men who ended up, some of whom ended up suing the state, was productive.
Exactly, and they give
it may have created quite a buzz at the time, but I don't know how sustainable any SOE is, unless you have some plan that comes immediately after that will actually suppress crime and improve police performance. And there's nothing stopping you from instituting a plan right now to improve police performance, because that's really what the issue is here now.
Yeah. The then police commissioner, I don't know if people remember this, didn't even know he was out of the country, Dwayne Gibbs.
No, Wendell. He and his deputy were conveniently out of the country, both attending, I do believe, a conference in Brazil.
It was a conference, yes.
In Brazil. So, and I don't know that it was productive for him and his deputy to conveniently be out of the country at the time of something as serious as that.
Because they were sent. That's my interpretation. That's my interpretation.
Why would they be sent? Would they be sent out of the country at such a critical time?
Exactly.
But I'm asking you. You said they were sent.
I set up poppycock reasons as to why they call her SOE last time.
Right. So that the SOE comment and suggestion is what is really topping the news. Gary Griffith also spoke about changes to the Anti-Terrorism Act as part of the fight against criminals. He said the effect that some of these gangs are having on the country is analogous to terrorism, which some countries have done, which is not necessarily a bad idea in some ways, but you still have to catch them.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's in principle, it may not be a bad idea to look at the Anti-Terrorism Act to see, because really and truly, if the part of what terrorism does is instill immeasurable fear in the population.
Well, Paul,
terrorism has a particular legal construction.
Yes, it does.
And I don't know that legally it will be applicable, but I mean, when you think about what the gangs have done and are doing in the country, I don't see it far from domestic terrorism in some instances. When they're threatening, for example, a threat was issued to the Prime Minister, judicial officials, parliamentarians, law enforcement, etc., just this weekend. Not so?
Yes.
How is that not in some people's mindset analogous to terrorism? You understand? It's domestic terrorism. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, guys. Morning, Richard.
But the legal construct for terrorism law may be different, but you never know.
Terrorists aren't afraid to identify themselves, worldwide. They aren't afraid.
Some claim responsibility, some don't.
Well, when he comes on, he'll explain what he means by that, because
terrorist means a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in pursuit of political aims.
Well, that's the meaning.
Yeah, but that's one of the meanings. That is what I just Googled it. So I don't know that the gangs are interested in political means in the country, but some may. You don't know, Because destabilization is maybe considered political. You understand? Destabilization may have political implications. So, stay with. Morning, Raghuban Singh.
I said morning already. What happened?
I can't say morning twice. So you only allowed one morning, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that
is Richard in the news this morning, by the way? Anybody have papers? Did he make the news?
Well, he was inebriated or something. Made a fool of himself.
No, it worked better than that.
You want a trip or something?
Anybody, so as
You're right.
anybody,
You're
any of
very
our
right,
listeners,
Paul. Paul, you're very right. I want a trip.
Oh, well, that's the only other reason you've been in the news, because you win the trip. Well, I hope they call you P&M Richard too.
They do make me laugh though. Oh God, hey.
the irony of
now
Richard,
Go ahead.
irony of Richard winning something yesterday was that it was the last two prizes to be given, right?
It was hilarious.
The last two prizes, and they
It
called
was hilarious.
Prime Minister to award these last two prizes. This is the last two, right? Of
Door
all
prizes, door prizes,
door
so it's
door
totally
prizes.
random.
Right, it's door
Really
prizes,
random.
right? Because when you enter, they put your name on a paper and they put it in a bowl, a glass bowl, right? And you put your name
And the media house you're representing.
Yeah.
And the media house you're representing.
Yeah, and your contact number and email address, right? So that for future database. So
For what database? The P&M database or the media database?
the media database, PNM's media database.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard is in the P&M's media database.
No, well, it's because every year they just had to call me to ask me Richard number and Steve number.
I'm being mischievous.
I know you are. But
so
anyway,
Richard is a cat. I remember now that he in that bowl. That's what you're saying?
No. But Richard, hold on. Richard sit down and Eric Williams lapping him.
Yeah,
I remember that.
In the Red House.
You can't get more card carrying than that.
Don't get tied up in him.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, Richard at that point in time scoots away from us because he wanted to do something privately out the road, right? So he leaves.
Is that allowed?
Yes, he can leave and go on the road. I mean,
to do something privately in the road?
Yeah. He went out the road to do something. Well, he didn't tell us what, but he leave.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
I went to make a phone call, Paul. I went to make a phone call.
Yeah, the Prime Minister goes up on stage, and of course, he draws from the bowl. No, he went to present. Somebody else drew from the bowl, right? And the name they call Richard Raghubar Singh. Everybody started to scream out. I don't even think half the crowd knew that Richard was there first to begin with, right? So the Prime Minister called. He said, the Prime Minister responds when he pulled the name, the only friend I have in the media.
You see? Now, cast your theatrical minds for a minute. If the Prime Minister put his hand in that bowl and I was there and pulled my name.
Well, Richard and I thought about putting your name after.
And if I was there, the name would have been in the bowl.
No, but we thought about writing our slip anyway.
And he pulled this name and called this. And I have to go up in the P&M mixer and talk to Rowley.
Front page.
Let me tell you something. Front page. Oh,
well, Richard had to do it. Richard went up on stage.
But Richard can do it. Richard can do it. There's nothing wrong. But you could imagine. I mean, there's 1 week UNC, 1 week I'm PNM, 1 week I'm UNC, 1 month I'm PNM. But it would be over after that.
No, but it was so funny that this is the last of the 2 prizes.
Congratulations, Richard. Good for you.
Well, in fact, everybody won prizes. Everybody on our table won. Everybody. I was having a doubles with Dr. Amory Brown. I told him, listen, when you go to pick the names, just call my name. And then one of the first person on the table to get the prize from Dr. Brown.
Minister Brown to break the rules and come and
yes. Definitely.
But you inviting a sitting minister to do?
Thing about it is that I said, when they call the name for the BMW, just call my name. Well, we did ask Stuart Young. We did tell Stuart Young that, We said, Stuart Young, next time all having prizes, make it a Mercedes-Benz and BMW, But I can't repeat what he said.
No, I can't repeat what he said.
No, I could, but it will sound like beep, 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 beep.
But let's just put it this way. It was in keeping with how Richard and them used to speak upstairs in the tea room.
Oh yes. But Elan won, Wendell won, I won. The entire power won, Neil won, the whole crew. The whole power of 2 crew won. So they say power of 2 sweep. Yeah.
I'm glad that you're always successful in your representation of the company.
No, it was a nice lime though.
It looked very relaxed and enjoyable.
Yeah.
From the
Every single minister came across our table and greeted us.
And of course, our official photo takeouter, Wendell, was taking pictures.
Yeah, selfies. They were all selfies.
Yeah. You were missed, Paul, but I understand why you wouldn't be there, but you were missed.
I don't understand why. A certain person who we talking to labeled him.
I'm not looking to understand why.
They said
he already said, Paul, pad up. He said, pad up.
The person is calling me PNM Paul.
They say they're more PNM than me, Paul.
Okay.
That is
impossible.
And next week, depending on what I say and how I vote, I'll be UNC. So that is just par for the course.
Well,
okay.
You don't have to try to balance it off to satisfy nobody, though.
I never say I try to balance it off to satisfy anybody. I'm saying that is what it is par for the course, and that's fine. Let them. People will talk. You understand? We get accused of blacklisting people, all kind of thing, but we will see. Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Like there's have we ever blacklisted anybody? No.
People blacklist themselves.
No. People who I do particularly care for came on the show as just stay silent in those cases. You understand? Because I don't really think adding anything in, like when you all interviewed Ishmael the other day, I just knew it doesn't make any sense for him to participate, so I didn't.
Yeah,
we didn't blacklist him.
A lot of people, I try my best not to engage, and then sometimes I do.
There's no reason, unless somebody has been obscene in the past or is defamatory or slanderous. You understand? That will put the company in a libelous position, liability. Then yeah. But apart from that, for blacklist, so what? As I always say, everybody entitled to their opinion. That's what democracy is about. You might not agree, but anyway, what else is happening in the news? The big news is about that shooting in Moor last night, and the fact that 3 men were killed, and the perpetrators were reportedly dressed in police garb. There's also a report from the police saying that the men were supposedly affiliated with this 6 gang, and somebody were fighting some 7 gang. I can't even keep up anymore.
My God.
Yeah. So. You know,
all I can say is that the state has to come up with some measures to deal aggressively with gangs and the increasing membership of gangs. Well, I don't know how much it is increasing statistically, but they have to come up with some measure, because you could look at other countries where gangs have been allowed to proliferate and see what it has become. So you're seeing the template in front of you. So you have to be intervening enough to avoid that template happening here.
Well, I don't think we need to look beyond our shores to see a template evolving. It's bad enough here.
Yeah.
You don't need to look past into any other country and see, look what's happening here.
Yeah. And clearly
576.
Yeah. And clearly the interventions at the youth level and so on, not bearing that kind of fruit.
Well, it was going to take a while.
Yeah.
Those are going to take a while. The social interventions will take a while. That's because of the breakdown over decades. That is part of what happens parallel to effective law enforcement. You understand?
Yeah.
You have suppression and you have prevention. Part of prevention is part of law enforcement too, but part of prevention is raising children properly.
And sometimes,
raising children properly. So that you don't think picking up a gun and shooting a 15-year-old is part of what a human being does. That no law enforcement can fix that, you know.
No.
That is how he was raised or not raised. That's what that is. So
sometimes my mind wanders though, but I don't want to vocalize it as to a lot of these particular killings. I don't want to vocalize it because but a lot of the murders are solving the other murders. So when you hear of the detection rate, and I've said this many times before and for years now, a lot of people who are being killed probably killed themselves.
Right. And you know what I say to that? because people, there's a general thought process in some quarters that, well, let the gangs kill out one another. That's what you're doing, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You know what my response to somebody was last week? And you think that will solve the problem? Right now, someone is raising a gang member. So because if you say you had 520 or 50 murders, or about 500 murders over the last how many years, and gang members are being killed at the pace of about 250 to 300 every year, don't you realize they're being replaced? Which means right now, even if what that proposition is adopted, somebody raising a gang member right now because of how they're raising that child.
Yeah, but
there is a supply side to it.
Yeah, but killing also becomes a habit. It also becomes a pleasure for some, and they'll do it regardless.
It becomes normalized, and you know,
clearly,
and that's what's happened. So we're so desensitized now that you could hear. Did you hear any massive uproar over the 15-year-old who was shot dead?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. Well, oh my God, the 15-year-old got killed, and we move on. That is where we are now. That is the sad state of where we are now.
Yeah, and which is why when we spoke with Minister Hines Monday, I had raised the issue and I went to specific matters. The one in front of the police station, the one on Arapita Avenue, the one by the gym in Long Circular Mall, and there was a fourth one I raised. In terms of the brazenness of this and the fact that these people seem to get away. I say right now, the guns, we have a proliferation of guns. There's very little we could do about that. The guns are here. But if the guns are here, they are being used. But when they are used, if we don't get the measure, the immediate response from the TTPS, that is what is failing us. We have to get an immediate response. And we have to hear something from them right away as to these people being caught. And that's what we're not hearing.
Anyway, does anyone have newspaper? When I was Lyman last, I saw on the newspapers that was someone going online one time because I was Lyman and drinking.
We had a nicer life. You should have.
Yeah, I was Lyman and drinking. So it is 6:45. By the way, I have to leave in exactly 1 hour because I have an interview to promote something in the Parliament at 7:45. So I'll be leaving just a bit early to facilitate that interview on another radio station to promote that.
You want to start the interview with Gary then? You want to postpone the interview with Gary to them?
No, actually, no. The interview was originally scheduled for 7:15 when I asked them to put it back because I didn't want nobody to feel I'm running from Gary Griffith.
Boy.
You understand? So I just letting you know I have to leave a bit early, 15 minutes. So because the first thing they will say is, oh my God, Gary, have a money.
Well, we take calls with him in the last 15 minutes.
Your choice. So let's go to the newspapers. So I'm just telling you I have to leave 15 minutes early. Let's start with the Express. It's January 17th. What happened to my baby Sade? A mother and father whose 20-year-old daughter went missing nearly 6 years ago still experience pain. So another missing person. Kamala defends SOE. Minister, parent of 2 students treated for tuberculosis. Gary, no to SOE. Missing taxi driver found beaten with 50 stab wounds. Wow. 8 shot, 2 die in Moor mass shooting. Vancouver on fire. Carnival virus warning. Trouble brewing over vending ban in San Fernando. Teenage girl shot dead. And I guess a follow-up to that story, 15-year-old schoolgirl gunned down. Let's move now to the Newsday. 3 men killed in Moor. So you have Angus Lam's chief secretary ready to lead autonomy quest. Minister Brown meets with new PAHO WHO country representative. Judge, police commissioner must provide list of vacation leave buyout. Body found in river in Arima. Shocked us out of contests after wife's illness and deaths. Of course, we sent our condolences yesterday. Pandey's best friend misses him. His dog is grieving. Makeda posted a picture of the dog sitting by a picture of the late Prime Minister, clearly going through grief. Religious groups monitoring flu and COVID viruses. San Fernando Mayor, illegal vending must stop. And let's move now to the Guardian online. Young dismisses Kamala's call for SOE. A picture of a violinist and regaling, I said, the Prime Minister and Mr. Minister Young in the picture at the B&M mixer last night. Girl 15 dies after being shot during village quarrel. Grenadians up in arms over Cayman Six's performance for Islands Independence. No soccer monarch again. That's still a thing. Kamala wants state of emergency to fight crime. Sando man killed in gun attack. Gypsy tells Tobago forget February and focus on October Carnival. And 4 held in East Port-of-Spain raids. Griffith urges authorities to treat gangs like terrorists. So those are trending stories in your Express, Guardian, and Newsday for today, Wednesday, the 17th of January, 2024.
All right. Before we get into this morning's poll, let's give you the results of our poll from yesterday, where we asked you, do you think a state of emergency is needed to fight crime in sweet TNT? That was our poll yesterday. The results after this.
The journey begins Saturday, 20th January. Chutney Soca Monarchs semifinals. 30 artists battle for a place of the grand final of CSM. The 2024 Chutney Soca Monarchs semifinals. The Rig, Gulfview, La Romaine. Absolutely free to the public. Message 789-3874 or email southexevents@gmail.com. CSM 2024, sponsored by National Carnival Commission, B-Mobile, Harrier Suites, Media Partners, Boom Champions, Lit 102.3, Power 102, IETV, Social Media Partners, Masala Entertainment, and West Indian Chutney Music.
All right. Our poll yesterday, do you think a state of emergency is needed to fight crime in Trinidad and Tobago? 57% said yes. All right.
My suggestion for the poll this morning is based on Gary Griffith's suggestion that gangs should be treated like terrorists.
Do you agree?
So the question is, do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated like terrorists?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah, that's a good poll.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, that's a good poll. Yes or no? Should gangs be treated like terrorists? Yes or no? We have some answers coming in already.
Yeah. 222-8255, toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp at 318-1021. Of course, on Facebook and on YouTube. Good morning to Dan Raj on WhatsApp, says yes. DL says okay. Good morning, Sankofa. Good morning, Val. All right, we got some votes coming in. Boy, DC says yes. Wayne B says yes. Guy Small says yes. Mo Gaines out in Aruka says yes to poll. Cheryl Henry didn't vote. Keegan Barrett says yes. Okay, I didn't get it. Val says a big fat no. New Hampshire says yes. Sunny San Fernando, a big yes. Good morning to G and C Auto Security. All right.
DL says yes. Lester Craigrell says yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Derek Pastor
says no.
No.
Yeah. Do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated like terrorists?
222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans, 866-525-1099, people on the web and the app. You can send your votes via the YouTube stream on the comment section, on Facebook, on Insta or LinkedIn. And of course, you can also send your votes via WhatsApp at 318-1021, 318-1021. Of course, you have to put the 868 code before it.
Yeah. Boy Bidesi says yes. Andre says yes from Rio Claro. Morning, Andre. Julia SBT says yes. Robert Chan, yes. Richard M. Jeremiah, yes. Trinity in Boston, cold snow. Good morning to you. Kazim Mohammed says yes. CJ New York says yes. Long Islander says yes. All right. Do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated like terrorists?
Let's congratulate our sister service boom champions. I went up to the boom building yesterday. Very, very, huge crowd.
That's in Eddie Hart, right?
Yeah,
Eddie
huge crowd. So congratulations to Glenn and the crew.
Oh,
across the corridor.
Yeah. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen. Yes.
All righty. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning.
My answer is yes, and it should be a long time ago.
All righty. Thank you.
Did you take Miss Maloney and Dennis Passad?
No, I didn't read those yet.
Miss Maloney said yes.
I'm taking it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm writing ahead of him.
And Frank Clark says, oh, good morning, Frank Clark. Good morning, caller. Morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
I will lean on the side of no, because I'm not sure what I mean by being treated as terrorists. But if it's so, then they have no problem in passing the full thing of the anti-gang legislation and the bail amendment. Right? So you probably could ask Gary Griffith that.
But he will get a chance to explain certainly after, because I agree he needs to explain what he means by it and how it will work.
No, he said, I think the initial information, as we'll ask him, is changes to the Anti-Terrorism Act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To include
or is it to the Anti-Gang Act?
Anti-Terrorism Act.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated like terrorists?
That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Absolutely tool-free.
Frank Clark, that's an issue he will have to explain. He says, for clarity, are you referring to treated as related to the approach or treated in that manner in law? Because you could easily say they're terrorizing the place now and treat them like that. You know what I mean?
It'll always have to be the law.
Well, yeah.
That's why I say you have to change the law to include gang
it'll always
activity.
have to be that.
Unless it is circumstances as a terrorist act. That domestic terrorism too, you know.
Yeah.
Mrs. Zara says yes.
We experienced it in 1990.
Exactly. And they certainly acted like a gang.
You still have to catch them at the end of the day.
Yes, you do.
Mm-mm.
And gather the evidence to support the prosecution.
But
my
question is, how is catching them under as a terrorist? How does it differ from catching them as a gang member? No,
I think it'll be the penalties. I think it'll be the penalties.
It'll be the penalties, right?
I assume so.
Mm.
And the prevailing circumstances. You'd have to specify the circumstances under which you can be charged.
We pulling them in as gang members right now, you know. But then letting them go on loitering charges. That's what happening now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So a terrorist can be held to and same way and say, well, okay, you're just loitering.
It still comes down to effective policing.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making too.
Law enforcement.
That's the point I'm making too. Because if you have so much power under the anti-gang legislation right now, you're holding them as a gang member. You could do a lot with that information as a gang member. But at the end of the day, you had to release them and say they were only loitering. How is the terrorism?
Steve, did you send invitation to Griffith?
Huh?
Steve, did you send invitation to Griffith?
That is more an issue of policing and having the evidence to back up.
Exactly. That's what I keep saying. It's come down to proper law enforcement.
And at the end of the day, the same police had to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it come down to proper law enforcement. You can't get away from that. They have to enforce the laws. No matter what laws you change, the same people that enforce the laws.
So right now, until Gary explains how he planned to do it, because he's certain he's going to win the next election and become the Commissioner of National Security. Yeah? So he's dead certain about that. So he had to explain today how he planned to do that. How he planned to make a word more effective.
I think that's an oversimplification.
No. Let me provoke him now. I'm buying your fight today.
Oh,
please don't. There's no need.
Let's get ready to.
I have no fight. But I get some sound effects in the bin there. You ready?
Oh,
so the question this morning is: do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated like terrorists? And of course, he'll explain in further detail after our 7 o'clock news, coming up after in the second hour of the show.
Brad Marcel, we can't read that comment. Brad Marcel, we can't read that comment. People on YouTube could read it, but we can't read it.
And Facebook.
Oh, Lordy.
All right. We just have a minute again. And of course, let me take the opportunity to wish Hillview College on their Founders Day today. Hillview College opened its doors on the 17th of January, 1955. So
yes,
69 years today. They have a function at 9 a.m. this morning. So, yeah. I
tell Esmond Ford we don't subscribe to that number on our page.
Who goes to you, Hillview College? All right. I'm going to take one more call. Then I go for a quick break in news. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Sleepyhead.
I'm just calling to say morning. Once you hear that person make that statement, I agree with nothing he said.
Oh, gosh. You can't take that view, Zena.
Thanks, Zena. She's going back to bed, you know. Going back to bed.
She ain't come on the bed.
Oh, that too.
But if she come on the bed.
All right. All right. News coming up in 30 seconds time.
The journey begins Saturday, 20th January. Chutney Soca Monarchs semifinals. 30 artists battle for a place of the grand final of CSM. The 2024 Chutney Soca Monarchs semifinals. The Rig, Gulfview, La Romaine. Absolutely free to the public. Message 789-3874 or email southexevents@gmail.com. CSM 2024, sponsored by National Carnival Commission, B-Mobile, Harrier Suites, Media Partners, Boom Champions, Lit 102.3, Power 102, IETV, Social Media Partners, Masala Entertainment, and West Indian Chutney Music.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Wednesday, 17th January 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 7 a.m. on News Power Digital. First, the headlines. 3 men are shot dead at Paradise Heights in Moor. 5 others were injured in the attack. Gary Griffith says declaring a state of emergency should be the last resort in the fight against crime, despite calls for an SOE by the opposition leader. Minister of Energy and Energy Industry Stuart Young dismisses the idea of a state of emergency. And Education Minister Dr. Leanne Gatsby-Dolly confirms that the parent of 2 students at Port of Spain primary and secondary schools has been treated for tuberculosis. We have details coming up next. This is major news to 7 a.m. on News Power Digital. Good morning. 3 men were shot dead at Paradise Heights in Moor and 5 other persons injured in a shooting just before 8 last night. One of the survivors was reportedly critically injured. Police were told a black Nissan X-Trail pulled up and men dressed in police gear jumped out of the vehicle. After giving the group the order to stay put, the men started shooting at the crowd. At least 8 persons were shot in the attack. A social media video of the third man shows him lying on the ground, bleeding profusely, with people nearby commenting, "He's bleeding out." One of the men, whose sources say was affiliated with 6 gangs and known as Nanas, was killed. The other 2 men had aliases of Blue and Ishmael. Senior police sources say, based on the preliminary information they have, 6 gangs were allegedly trying to take over the area, and they believe the rival 7 gang are responsible for this latest shooting. The murder count in the country now stands at 27. A state of emergency can at least buy the population some time by easing the crime crisis, until the Keith Rowley-led government is removed at the next general election. This from the opposition leader, Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. Former Prime Minister explained yesterday that when political analyst Dr. Indira Rampersad said there should be an SOE at the UNC's first anti-crime town hall meeting on Monday night, she supported that call at the time because the PNM lacks an effective crime-fighting plan. She said the PNM government lacks a multidisciplinary crime-fighting plan, as what the UNC has been proposing, and they do not have the capacity to implement. She also said the UNC has a crime-fighting plan that can work to reduce crime, that will ensure criminals are hunted and prosecuted, as well as giving law-abiding citizens the ability to protect themselves with legal firearms. Prasad-Bissessar said there are other effective plans and policies that can be implemented, which the Rowley government refuses to acknowledge. She also said the UNC's first anti-crime meeting was a tremendous success and expressed gratitude to panelists, including Professor Hubert Daisley, Dr. Indira Rampersad, Enrique Rodriguez, and Griffith for the insightful presentations. And also declaring the SRE should be the last resort in the fight against the crime in the country. That's the opinion of former Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith following public discussions on the call for an SRE by the leader of the opposition. Griffith said while the 2011 SRE may have been needed at the time, he did not believe that the current situation warranted another one. He noted the 2011 SRE resulted from several factors, including law enforcement and intelligence agencies bringing to the attention of the National Security Council at that time a clear and present danger of a deliberate attempt by subversive elements with an agenda to destabilize the country, including plans to commit mass killings across the country. He said while an SOE is indeed an option, it would indeed be the very last option to reduce crime by the incoming government. There'll be no numerous policies, units, programs, equipment, and technology, as well as the political will that will provide similar success results to what was seen in 2010 to 2015, and from 2020 to 2021. Griffith also re-emphasized his call from Monday night's forum, or Monday night's anti-crime talks, that the Anti-Terrorism Act should be used in the fight against criminal elements in the country. And Minister of Energy and Energy Industry, Stuart Young, has dismissed the idea of an SOE, speaking to members of the media last night at the People's National Movement mix at Balizé House in Port of Spain. Minister Young poured cold water on the idea of a return to such a scenario. He said he woke up on Tuesday and read what was reported on the UNC's meeting as it related to an SOE as a solution to rising crime. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is putting the opposition and the nation on notice that he plans to respond to the issue of crime talks at a PNM meeting to be held in San Juan tomorrow night. Minister of Education Dr. Nian Gasbidoli has confirmed that the parent of two students at Port of Spain secondary and primary schools has been treated for tuberculosis TB. In response to questions from the Express newspaper yesterday, Gasbidoli said via WhatsApp that students have not tested positive for the disease and have not displayed any symptoms. But she emphasized the students would require further testing to determine if they had a latent TB infection or TB disease and will not attend school until the results of these tests are determined. Her comments follows a report that there's a case of TB at Tranquility Government Secondary School. The Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association President Martin Lumpkin said there was confirmation by the school of a TB case at the institution. Gasbidoli, however, said the Education District Health Unit was advised on 15th of January that the parent of two students at one secondary and primary school in Port of Spain had been treated for tuberculosis. She said the schools involved would be visited by officials of the Ministry of Education and Health to educate school officials and teachers, students and parents of the processes and protocols being followed regarding this situation. The Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association believes the opening of the Phoenix Park Industrial Estate will act as a catalyst to grow the non-energy manufacturing base of the country. It says the move will also increase employment opportunities and forex earning capacity for the country. President of TTMA, Mr. Roger Rhodes, stated the availability of this new state-of-the-art space will facilitate organizations who are seeking to invest, upgrade, or expand into new technologically driven, best-in-class operations in light manufacturing, warehousing, logistics, and other related growth industries. And finally, internationally, a New Zealand MP has resigned following multiple allegations of shoplifting, which police are investigating. Gwaris Grahaman of the Green Party is alleged to have stolen 3 items from 2 clothing stores, one in Auckland and the other in Wellington. The 42-year-old MP, who has not been charged with any crime, said in a statement, her actions had fallen short of the high standards of behavior the public expected from elected officials. And that is news to 7 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming up at 12 noon. That's end with the headlines once again. 3 men are shot dead at Paradise Heights Moor. 5 other persons are injured. Gary Griffith says declaring a state of emergency should be the last option to fight crime in the country. Energy Minister Stuart Young dismisses the idea of a state of emergency. And Education Minister Dr. Nian Gaspidoli confirms that the parent of 2 students at Port of Spain secondary and primary schools have been treated for tuberculosis TB. That is major news right here on News Power Digital. We'll have more news coming up, headlines at 8 a.m. and major news once again at 12 noon.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right, thank you so much, Paul, for our major news. Of course, you can join them again. Come at 8 o'clock for a news brief. It is 24 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 25 in Crown Point. Weather for today, it's just going to be sunny and breezy despite the isolated shower. This evening will be fair and cool. That's your weather forecast. Quickly, let's take a look at what's happening on the highways and the byways. Starting out in the west, out of Diego Martin, very heavy. Out of Maraval, Mocha, from the Pillars and Maracas, coming down from Santa Cruz to San Juan, that is also heavy. Antigua Road, coming up from Valencia towards Waterfield, yeah, you got some traffic there. You got some volume. All right, through Santa Rosa, of course, Piarco towards Yui, and then Valsain to Port of Spain, Ibis Gardens towards the highway, Kelly Village. Chaguanas Main Road, Southern Main Road via Chinchin, well, through Chinchin Road is where you got your heavy traffic. San Fernando, yeah, you're beginning to build. Head into Marabella roundabout, you got and of course, Gala Connector Road, you're heavy as well. Rivulet Road, heavy in Cuba area. Your traffic on the Solo is going to, it just did a refresh. I mean, there it is. Yeah, Chase Village, well, Freeport towards Sugargonas, and then Charlieville towards the interchange. That's your heavy one this morning. All right, let's see if we have any more votes here. Lennon Robert says yes. Alan Reese says, I agree with Gary Griffith. Okay, all right. Yeah, and that's the results.
All right, well, we have our poll this morning was, do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated like terrorists? We have 23 people saying yes and 4 saying no. 23 saying yes and 4 saying no. All right, that's our poll this morning, right? I'm just running and grabbing my coffee there. And look, we have 2 more coming in saying yes. Justin Fornillier and Adrian Kutu. All right, so that's 25. All right, 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds, guys.
1, 2.
Isn't that what he tells the ladies?
Yeah, that's what he tells. Yeah. So kudos to Hillview College, 69 years today. You're really having a good year with all the scholars and so on. So
congratulations to acting principal Sharon Ramley. I think she's doing a great job. She really cares about the school. Really cares about the school.
Yeah. It's a nice.
But coming up this weekend also is St. Mary's Big Fete.
Is that this weekend?
Which is the hottest sort ticket on the market.
Yeah, $2,000.
That's what the price is?
Yes. Sold out.
1,500 and 2,000. Two prices. 1,500 and 2,000.
But let me tell you, it is the most sought ticket on the market. Sought after ticket on the market, I should say.
Well, it was last year too. I went for the first.
They've elevated the school thing quite. You know, in terms of the school fete, I think that's the premier school fete in the country now.
Yeah. I'll give it.
But they put a lot of work into it, because the setting and the backdrop and stuff really outstanding. I'm seeing Gary just logged on, so but he like.
Okay.
I'll leave him a camera off for a bit, guys. Hold on.
Good morning, Mr. Griffith.
Morning, Gary.
Good morning, Honorable Senator.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Happy New Year to you.
I missed you.
Oh,
I missed you too.
Love.
Did you celebrate an anniversary recently?
Yeah.
Yes.
17 years, right?
17 years, yes.
Congratulations. You and your beautiful wife.
Steve did not attend. Steve was absent.
Yeah, I couldn't make it that day.
Well, you didn't invite me.
Yeah, I couldn't make it.
Talking to me. I don't know.
I stopped talking to you.
I didn't stop talking. I didn't stop talking to you, and they didn't invite you.
How could you say I stopped talking to you?
Oh God, it's the big love only flowing this morning, boy. You're hearing it.
How you could say I stopped talking to you? Yesterday you accused me of blacklisting you. Now you say I stopped talking to you. How I stopped talking to you, Gary? Oh
God.
The last conversation was a very amicable conversation, which was about mid-December, I do believe, right?
Yeah.
Where you just come off the show and you didn't like how you were treated on the show, but you were very civil about it. You just said that you thought you weren't treated well on the show, and I said, well, I appreciate your feedback. This was not the conversation generally.
Yep. And there was, but when people say, okay, I thank for your view, but you would have never stated that. What happened in that show is that I saw that I was in a joint select committee. I was cross-examined by every single thing I said, which was a fact. And what was interesting is that that was about me stating that a government gave me $40 million, put it into the police account, directed me who to hire and to make them SRPs. And then you said that, well, I need to bring evidence. And the fact that, which I love with politics in Trinidad and Tobago, you say that, but you will never ask Hines, Stewart, or Rowley. You keep speaking about corruption with firearms. Why don't you show the evidence? You will never ask that. You know why? You know why? Because a prime minister appoints a president who appoints senators. But you will never ask that same question, Paul. I dare you Keith Rowley for 2 years has stated corruption.
I promise you, the next time I have Minister Hines and or the Prime Minister on, I will ask them that correct question directly.
And that is all I ask, a level playing field. Right? Because
and they injuncted from talking about that issue.
No, but I could still ask them if they injuncted, and they could say they injuncted. So I could still ask them.
Because remember, right? I have made a statement that you gave me $40 million, you put it into your account, you told me who to hire and to make them SRPs. They have never denied it. On the other side, but they haven't denied it, yet I must show you the evidence. But on the other side, they have lied and said massive well-oiled criminal industry, massive, lots of corruption. Gary was bringing in parts for weapons to change it into automatic. And then I said, Rowley, Hines, you are blatant liars. But you wouldn't ask them. But Gary has now challenged you and said you're lying. Can you show us the evidence? Never asked. The media will never ask them.
Our question this morning was, do you agree with Gary Griffith that gangs should be treated as terrorists? Now, we had quite a large response to the poll. When they repeat the results, please.
25 said yes, and 4 said no.
Yeah.
Now, among those who also weighed in, Gary, are those who want you to elaborate on what you meant by that. Now, I read the newspaper Express article that said that you meant a change to the Anti-Terrorism Act. Could you expand on that, what you mean for me, please?
Yeah, sure. So there's an Anti-Terrorism Act, and sometimes people find ways why something cannot be done, because you will look and say, well, there's something in the act that may not allow it. And all you have to do is to make the slight amendments, because the interesting thing with the Anti-Terrorism Act, I don't think it ever defines who's a terrorist. But by and large, a terrorist is someone who has an intention to commit serious harm or death, especially to civilians. And then there's a slight line that can state with a political aim. And by and large, what we've seen here with the gangs is that what has happened is that it is making it very difficult for the government to govern. You can virtually make a country unstable. It is affecting investment, it is affecting business in Trinidad and Tobago. The whole nation is under siege. So those things can be considered a terrorist act. If you recall what happens in the United States, they said, why it is only when it is religious persons do something and commit harm. But when another person in the United States has an assault weapon and kills 17 people, you don't refer to that person as a terrorist. Indirectly, they are internal terrorists. So in the Anti-Terrorism Act, it actually says it's about the act means that committed which is likely to cause loss of human life or serious bodily harm damage to property, and prejudice to national security, which is basically what the gangs have been doing. And there are other parts of the act that shows about anyone who participates as an accomplice, anyone who commits a terrorist act by directly or indirectly influencing, persons who organize or direct the officers, direct the individuals, persons who might make available financial support. So what that the Anti-Terrorist Act has never really been used, and it is there for the taking. Ecuador just did it recently. So by doing this, you don't just target the guy with the 35 with the automatic weapon, but his core gang member, the person who is in charge of the gang, the persons who import the weapons, and even the politicians who sometimes give these gangs $5 million state contracts to build a box train that really costs $50,000, and they use the profit to buy more sophisticated assault weapons. So if we use the Anti-Terrorism Act to have gang members referred to as terrorists, what it does now, it can allow, I remember when we arrested a man with 4 assault rifles. That means that he could have killed 105 people in 3 seconds. And the court gave this man a $50,000 bail the very next day. So because he's a gang member, taking away that anti-gang legislation, it is not working. It is a waste of time. Using the Anti-Terrorism Act, you allow the gang members to be recognized as terrorists. It is now 25 years in prison, as well as any fellow person who was with him, anybody who provided the weapon, any politician who gave him the contract that allowed him to be able to build his armada. They are all now liable to 20 years in prison. And further, it now allows the defense force access to move in to operate in an operational manner, not the present cosmetic one that we have, which is why you have a soldier and a policeman walking down the street. 2 security guards could do the same. By doing this, it now triggers the need where the president under Defense Force chapter 1401, paragraph 4, where it gives the president the authorization to put them on active service. Active service means that Defense Force can now be highly operational. The Defense Force is not a cosmetic tool just to have a soldier walking with a police officer. It is similar to what is being done in Jamaica right now. It is known as the Zone of Special Operations, where the soldiers are now being used. Gentlemen, we have 5,000 members of the Defense Force staying in camp. The last time they've been used was 2011. Before that was 1990. So
I'm not necessarily against what you're saying, but one of the questions that will arise is that, and I think you kind of clarified it. You said the Defense Force will have additional powers under that. If that act is amended, that's what you're saying. But the same law enforcement police who can't seem to effectively operationalize gathering evidence for gang legislation will have to be a part of that. How do you deal with that issue?
Right, sure, because the police officers are not trained for this type of environment. You would have seen it in 1990, not knocking the police officers, but every police station was abandoned. I was the youngest officer in the Defense Force at the time. I was the one all through hours in the night, all the stations we won, because the police are not trained for that type of armed conflict. Granted that in 2020, under the situation with the 150 men coming down into Port of Spain with equipment to destroy Port of Spain, thankfully, because of my operational military training, we were able to prevent it. And the Defense Force remained in camp because there's a reluctance for the Defense Force to come out, because under their role and function, you don't want them to be in a position where something happens and then they are now blamed and said, who gave, they don't have a get out of jail free card. The Anti-Terrorism Act makes these individuals now enemies of the state rather than just a criminal. By making you an enemy of the state, it allows the Defense Force the opportunity now to get in there and be fully operational, similar to what Jamaica is doing. They are making full use of their Defense Force. We have over 5,000 still remaining in camp on standby. How could 150 men walk down into Frederick Street to destroy Port of Spain and you're on standby? And I know how to utilize the police to be doing army work in local.
How would you respond to those who suggest that's militarizing the country?
It's not, because the country is under siege. And again, that is why the people who will say that they are sympathetic to criminals, they do not want the gangs to be pegged back, they do not want them to be neutralized. Remember, gentlemen, Paul, crime is big business. There are people who benefit tremendously by what happens now with gang warfare, whether it be certain politicians, whether it be people in the security sector, whether it be people who benefit from illegal drugs, human trafficking. So gang warfare, gang activity is big. What I am doing is to neutralize this once and for all, putting an end to it. We are trying to play with kid gloves, and the gangs, as I said, If one man has an assault weapon, that is 35 people that could be killed in 3 seconds. So the only way that this could be done is to fight fire with fire. The 7,000 police officers, the 5,000 members of the defense force, 12,000 coming in there. We did it with 100 under the special operation response team. Remember, just 100 had the gang members scampering. They were afraid. Now they are brazen. They are shooting in broad daylight.
Well, what you just suggested there, if we had to take that, is that an effectively run law enforcement agency can do it. Because if you said you did it with 100 SWAT officers under the police service without the Anti-Terrorism Act being amended, it can be done if the police service is operating effectively. Why not focus on that? Because
to do that, I militarized the police service. I took an arm of the police service and made them very military, and that is where people,
that's a very interesting statement. You just said you militarized the police service. There are many people who would frown on that.
Well, yeah, because they were, as I said, the people who frown on it are those who support criminals. Everybody was pleased with SWAT. When you heard about Gary's boys, a few moments later, no criminal could come and brandish a firearm
Should a police service be militarized when you have different arms for different reasons?
No, because it is all over the world. You ever heard about something called SWAT, SWAT? It is a military unit. All over the world, you have an arm that is very, very tactical, very operational. They are probably trained even more than the army.
So you're using the word militarized figuratively.
Yeah. Along the words of being highly tactical.
Just want to clarify, because you're saying I militarize the police service.
Well, no, but if you bring 100 members of SWAT and they are part of the police service and they are highly trained, highly tactical to deal with a war, you have basically militarized an arm of the police service. But as I said, all over the world, every single police service has that. You must have that highly tactical trained unit to be there for that first line. If it reaches a point of 3,000 gang members, you can't expect, again, even though SWAT did it. But notice what happened. As soon as I left, they dismantled SWAT because of an incident involving 2 persons. But you have the IATF, the GB, the Northern Division that were involved and still involved in investigations with several people being killed, and they have not touched them. So it shows that this was a deliberate concern because, as I said, crime is big business. It is not just for the guy in the 3/4 pants and the white vest. It involves sometimes the guys in the shirt and tie and the suit because they benefit from it. So there were certain people who had an issue with what I did. However, it worked. It pegged back criminals. Public trust and confidence in the police went up to 59%. It was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. It played a part, and that is what is required now. Bringing the defense force in, not just utilizing them in a cosmetic way by walking with a soldier and a policeman on the street. Jamaica, they presently do it, as I mentioned, that zone of special operations. So you take what Ecuador has presently done, utilizing the Anti-Terrorism Act, and you take what Jamaica have done, using the zone of special operations, and you merge it to come up with something. My point being, gentlemen, quickly, is just to show that things can be done, things can be achieved. It is not talking about a state of emergency. It is talking about getting the job done and thinking out of the box. The Anti-Terrorism Act, the Zone of Special Operations are 2 simple things that I would have immediately ignited as a security minister. But because of fear, failure, incompetence, or even feeling sympathetic to criminals, it seems that this administration would not do it.
When you say Zone of Special Operations in Jamaica, with regard to the army being utilized by Jamaica, is it that they give army officers the power of arrest? Is that part of their zone of operations? Or is it that they have to accompany police officers like what we see in Trinidad?
Well, it gives them full authority to be totally operational, whereas it's not a situation of them just going on a joint patrol with the police, and that is the difference. The powers of arrest, again, that is when you start getting into a state of emergency. The soldiers are there as a support element for the police to deal with internal security. So even though they go into a zone of special operations, there still will be police presence. But the difference is now you can have about 20 soldiers raiding somewhere, but there's just 1 police officer there who will do the actual arrest. So now the police officer becomes the support element, whereas before it would be the other way around. You'll have lots of police officers and a few soldiers that come and jump in a vehicle under the IATF to patrol somewhere, to take a walk down Frederick Street or St. James. That is not what we are talking about. This here is a system that can be used with 5,000 persons there, ready to take on these gangs, and if not arrest them, neutralize them.
Gary, how do you respond to the proposal by the UNC opposition of us calling a state of emergency?
Right. Okay, so let me clarify that quickly. The political scientist and the anti-crime talks, she and again, many times people are emotional, and she said that every time she hears a gunshot, she says, call a state of emergency. The crowd applauded. The political leader of the UNC, the opposition leader, she said, listen, a state of emergency, it worked in reducing crime. So fact, it is true. There was a massive reduction in crime because, I mean, if you use a state of emergency and a curfew specifically to deal with criminal activity, then crime would go down. That is not what happened in the last state of emergency. That was something for public health regulation. So it's two different things. But in that situation, it was a fact crime was reduced. What she's saying, however, is that in this present circumstance with this administration, nothing else is working. They have not brought out any policies, new tools, technology, units. In fact, they've been dismantling everything. So if it is we have reached this point where it is the bloodiest the country has ever seen, the country has never been so fearful. It seems that the last resort is the state of emergency. And it is really and truly a last resort. I am stating that in the incoming government, the state of emergency is likewise, additionally, it is still going to be a last resort because you would have seen what happened in 2014. It was the highest reduction in serious crime in 31 years without a SOE. You'd have seen my last year, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. So without trying to utilize a state of emergency to reduce crime. So things can actually work. There are a lot of different tools, policies, units that can work. So this is not about Kamala Persad-Bissessar stating that when she gets in government, there's going to be a state of emergency. That's not it. That is the last resort. Let me quickly add. I know the first thing people will say is that, but the last time you all did a state of emergency, you all locked up hundreds of young men. Let me clarify. That state of emergency was called based on law enforcement intelligence heads coming to the National Security Council and informing us that there was a clear and present danger and there was a direct plan to destabilize the country through mass killings and assassinations. The government, they must adhere to that type of advice. Failure for them to do so can cause a whole country to collapse. So the government adhered to the recommendation by the law enforcement agencies to call the state of emergency. If the police operated in a manner not becoming of police officers and arrested people unlawfully, that is not the fault of the government. The government called the state of emergency based on the advice of the law enforcement agencies.
Well, back up a bit, Gary, because at the point in time, the law enforcement agency, I would imagine, would have involved a commissioner of police and his deputy.
Correct.
Who at the time were not in the country when this was done.
No, come on, man. When they're just like saying if Keith Rowley leaves the country, there's no prime minister.
No,
there's always a commissioner of police. So okay, get off that one.
So I'm asking, but a matter of a state of emergency, I don't know that a state of emergency could be called and a prime minister not around. I'm asking this in light of the fact that what you just said as the reason why it was done back in 2011. You said it was as a result of intelligence from law enforcement agencies. In my opinion, and I'm sure in several other people's opinion, law enforcement agencies involves a commissioner of police.
But when what is it? So is it a substantive commissioner of police or an acting commissioner of police?
No. Well, I would imagine the commissioner of police didn't leave not too long before that.
No. Listen. There's a saying you can't be half pregnant. The person who was the commissioner of police at the time was the acting commissioner of police. If he is no longer there, he is replaced by an acting commissioner of police. So what you're trying to say is that
we had an actual substantive commissioner of police in Dwayne Gibbs at the point in time.
All right, okay, yeah.
And deputy commissioner, substantive, Mr.
Iwatsky. But the fact of the matter is just like saying that if the prime minister leaves the country, the acting prime minister does not have. If there's a clear and present danger, you don't sit down and twiddle your thumbs and wait for the substantive person to turn up. It does not work that way.
But at the point in time, if I remember, and I stand corrected on this, Mr. Gibbs was not aware at all.
Well, that is for you to see. If it is that there's an acting commissioner of police and he comes to the government with a recommendation immediately, it is not the role of the government to say, well, let's go up to the substantive commissioner of police and see what his view is. That is madness. It does not work that way. So let's be realistic here, because the man is the substantive. If I was the substantive commissioner of police and I go off to Ireland or whatever, and there's an immediate, clear and present danger to destabilize the country, what it is that the government now must sit down and say, well, let's go to the substance. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I'm not saying
acting commissioner of police, an acting commissioner of police has the exact authority.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But are you saying that an actual substantive commissioner of police would not be briefed?
Well, again,
I don't know that you would have appreciated that when you run out of the country for a week or so on a course or some conference, that something happens and they go to whoever was deputizing for you. Did you ever have a deputy?
On several occasions. If I had to go to conferences or whatever, and that would have been sometimes Harold Phillip, sometimes Hackshaw. So there would have been
that thing, right? Okay, yeah. Right.
And the point is, immediately you have to make a decision. You are having a boardroom, you're having meetings that's taking place. So the last thing is, well, let's call it substantive to hear what he has to say. That is. I mean, come on, Wendell. The focus
you see, you changing my words. You are saying he should be consulted to hear what he have to say. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is very strange that a substantive.
As soon as you leave the country, whether you're substantive or acting, the person has full control. They make the decisions because you are not there. So whether he in your view or your recommendation, there's a clear and present danger from intelligence agencies. The person who holds the chair makes the decision. If a commissioner goes on vacation, it is not for us to pick up. Well, Dwayne, what do you think about it, pal? What's your view? He doesn't know. There's a wealth of intelligence and information.
I'm presuming that there's a full briefing and handover to acting position. Right?
Exactly.
What I want to know, I want to go back to the issue of the gangs a bit, Gary, and if you could share with us what your experience was. I know you were very adamant about the inroads that the SWAT unit made. But what was your experience as commissioner regarding gangs and gathering evidence to hunt down, arrest, charge, and prosecute gangs in this country? Because the gangs are the issue, and you were a substantive commissioner for 3 years. We have a commissioner now, there's a commissioner before you, but we've had a gang problem for like 20 years in this country that's not improving. It is seemingly getting worse. But not seemingly, it's getting worse.
Oh, sorry, yes. You're correct. And what the issue took place, I said it constantly as commissioner of police, that when you play with filthy animals, you will get fleas. You can't continue to feed the animal in the hope that the animal would turn away. It started since 2006, and there was a point of no return.
No, but sorry to interrupt, but I'm talking specifically about the role of law enforcement in identifying, hunting down, gathering the evidence to secure successful prosecution in gangs. And what was your experience in that, and what were the challenges in that, if any?
Yeah, but all right, yeah. So I just segue to just quickly what I was alluding to is that because of the government giving gangs state contracts.
We know, and that's the funding part and the financing.
No, but I want to show you the important place. I want to show you the important. By doing that, it allowed gangs the opportunity now to have so much funds that they would be able to pay off police officers, pay off certain other persons, and it made it difficult for the intelligence, because now you're getting in a situation where the gangs are so well funded because, as I said, $5 million contract to build a $50,000 box ring. They can now use these funds now to pay off the same agencies on the inside that will be able to tip off these same gangs. This is what they are picking up. This is what they are planning. This is what they are doing. And it made it very difficult, which is where my point has always been. You need to squeeze them. You don't go and feed the animal, because eventually they're going to bite you. The more funds you give them, the harder it is for the intelligence.
But wasn't the unit that you spoke about insulated from that in large respect?
Yeah.
But if they were insulated from that, then what was the issue with that unit carrying out that function if they were insulated?
And it worked because they had their own intelligence unit separate and apart from the TTPS. And the same way it is that we were able to deal with putting an end to kidnapping by having one unit alone, because we found out police officers, like in Natalie Polony kidnapping, police officers were involved. So every time we were doing something, they were tipping off the other kidnappers. So that is what SWAT was. We had our own intelligence unit, and certain rogue elements in the police service were offended. So they started whispering to politicians, we need to get rid of SWAT, because that is what SWAT did. Just like SWAT that you will see in the United States. You have your own intelligence unit separate and apart from the TTPS. Not knocking the TTPS, but
how successful was your unit in identifying and dealing with gang issue?
Sorry, I didn't hear you because you interrupted me for the 5th time whilst I was speaking. What's that?
Oh God, we're going down that road again.
No, you just did it 5 times. So I didn't hear because whilst I was speaking, you interrupted me again.
Well, I will try not to do it again. I just want to know how successful was your group in dealing with that gang issue?
Yeah, and it was very successful because it started pegging back the gangs. It was known as predictive policing. Through the online reporting, through the police app, through the social media monitoring unit we had, through a unit that was actually monitoring what is known as the dark web that people may not be aware of, we were able to pinpoint and find out things that would have been taking place to put a hit on a prison officer, persons now collecting weapons to head to a certain area to kill certain persons. So SWAT would have been using that intelligence through the dark web, through the social media monitoring unit that we piggyback from NYPD, through the online reporting, through putting undercover officers, which we never had before. So I started putting police officers undercover. So that what Fitzgerald Hines is talking about, that was being done 2 years ago. We had officers that other officers would not have known that these guys were working undercover, and they were giving us information and tipping us off for us to be known what was known as predictive policing. So it did work. But then again, why do it? So that's why SWAT was shut down.
You know, Gary, I mean, I have 2 questions. One, when we spoke to Fitzgerald Hines earlier this week, he brought up the issue of air surveillance. Well, Paul had asked him about the issue about air surveillance, because when we talk about issues on the Power Breakfast show, and we hear a murder takes place X, and the criminals jumped into whatever vehicle, and they escape, they must travel on particular roads. And there has to be a backup, in our opinion, of not only CCTV cameras, but air support. And now I know the air support unit was disbanded, but the TTPS and well, certainly Fitzgerald Hines indicated that they have drones. And I was talking to Wendell last night. Was it last night, Wendell?
Yeah.
And I was saying about drones. What when they say drones, what do they mean? Who is deploying the drone?
Yeah,
and who's controlling the surveillance of the drone?
Gary, don't interrupt the man now.
Sorry, my bad.
Go ahead, Gary.
Right. So if you look at the dictionary of ministers and you have the word clueless, you'll see Fitzgerald Hines. That is probably one of the dumbest things. The man does not know. He is totally clueless. The drones that the TTPS have are the drones that you buy in Toys R Us. It are these type of drones that can actually go up. Now, I'm not saying that is not helpful, but you know, like you go in a volatile area, you could look at. But these are drones that are very limited in capacity. The drones that I made the request for would have been things that can turn night into day, that could go 3,000 meters above sea level, that can lock onto a license plate of a police vehicle, that can lock onto a vessel leaving Venezuela, coming into Trinidad, and you can now lock on, see the names, actually hear what is happening, lock onto when the drugs or the weapons get onto the vehicle, see which vehicle or what police vehicle is escorting them. Drones that can actually cover the whole of the borders between Trinidad and Venezuela, and that is even more effective than the vessels itself in the water, because the drones can actually move. Those things can stay up in the air for 24 hours. That is the type of drones that we were getting. What Fitzgerald Hines is speaking about that you have given to the police service are Toys R Us drones. You buy that in Toys R Us, and so he doesn't have a clue. That's what you speak about, Richard. Those are the type of drones that I made the request for, and I was able to get the funding for it because I was able to cut overtime corruption in the police service by $100 million per annum. Because
where are those drones?
It was never approved because I left. But that is the type of drones that we require, Richard, not the drones. So for him to say we have drones, we don't. We have an air guard in Piarco with 500 members, no helicopter, no aircraft. They're doing nothing, waiting, twiddling their thumbs. We have a police service air unit using Toys R Us drones, when they should really get the type of drones that I just spoke about that can assist in traffic congestion. They can pinpoint what is causing the traffic. They can be able to.
So there are drones. So there are drones. We're not talking quality now, but there are drones.
Yeah, but anybody could have a drone. My 7-year-old nephew has a drone.
So our conversation last night went along the road of where are these drones located? Who is the drone controller?
Okay,
what do these drones do?
The senator has put up his hand.
I think he has to leave.
No, I just want to make sure that I ask to talk because I don't want to interrupt you. 5 times is too much already.
Yeah, but you're interrupting me now, not Gary.
I can interrupt you. I don't interrupt Gary. No, I have to leave in 3 minutes, to be very quiet. I have another interview to do. But I just wanted to ask you, the UNC's anti-crime talks kicked off on Monday. I thought the first one was very successful.
But Gary's an NTA, yeah?
But he was a guest on it, okay?
Okay.
Right? What do you think can come out of those interfaces moving across the country?
Excellent question. It's exactly what I thought would have taken place when I offered to assist the Prime Minister early February, and he told me where to get to office. The same reason why Kamala Bissessar did the same thing. This is a matter no longer about party cards. This is good versus evil. This is about us uniting, working as a team of law-abiding citizens who have political leaders and political parties, regardless of your political affiliation. We need all to work to come up with the proper tools, policies, and political will. So that is the important. Unfortunately, Keith Rowley, because of hate, bitterness, the bank over Gary Griffith, he doesn't want to be involved, and the country will suffer. But at least at this time, we need to get the private sector involved. This is not politicians and government officials and members of parliament just coming up with crime plans. Is not the way. You need to be on the ground. You need to speak to your stakeholders. You need to hear their concerns. You need to hear their recommendations so that you can come up with the proper policy to ensure that we can take back criminal elements. That being the value of those talks.
Thank you. I have to leave now. Yeah. I appreciate you being with us. Please don't be a stranger.
So we're going back to my original question, Gary. Where are these drones? Who are these drone controllers? What do these drones do? We ain't discussing the quality now, but there are drones. The minister said it. You confirm that there are drones. Where are they? And how are they being used?
There's an air support unit in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and so they have drones. But as I said, there are certain drones that are used, like in Chicago. If you're in a volatile area, they will send the drones. They could send the drones over to see what is happening, and the drones could probably be shut down. So there are drones and there are drones. What Richard is speaking about is that if there's a situation with a killing somewhere, and then you have the National Operations Center, you pinpoint a vehicle that has now been taken off, heading down the road. The drones that you have could never deal with that. We are speaking about a drone that can immediately go up to 3 kilometers. And when you go up to 3 kilometers, you can have a span of dozens of kilometers on either side that you can lock on onto that vehicle, lock onto that license plate, see exactly what it's doing. That is it. What Richard is speaking about is that type of technology. So when I say, we have drones, the drones that we have could never do that. Those drones are something that you use your joystick and you pull up and you actually send it to something that's about a couple hundred meters away from where you are. That is not the drones immediately.
Well, Richard and I said they use it for the sports and family day and for the parade. So that's where our discussion went. But this was after a long evening, right? So we don't know if we were correct. Is that what the drones are being used for?
That air unit is very good. It's just that they need better quality. So, but I'll give you an example. If it is that somebody is in a volatile area or in a forested area and is a criminal with a firearm, you take the drone so you can see where he is, because you don't want to have officers going into that area where they could be killed. So that is the type of technology we had. The technology I was speaking about would be a drone, and we actually had it. We did the research. I went to the different places. The drone can actually lock onto a building. The police officer will have it on his arm, and he can actually see what is in the back of the building to know if he's going to be ambushed. That is the type of technology available. And as I said, those drones would be able to do 3 times more than any OPV, because the drones now, as I said, it could turn night into day. It's a covert operative, so you don't even know that it's monitoring you, not like the Goodyear blimp. So as I said, Patrick Manning had good ideas. It was just a little outdated. So instead of the Goodyear blimp, I was getting the drones. Instead of the SAUTT, I formed the National Security Special Operation Group as minister and the Special Operation Response Team. You notice the similar name? There was a reason for it. I saw the value of SORT. Instead of the OPVs, I saw the importance of the OPVs, but you don't spend $2.4 billion for 3 OPVs when you could get it for half the price in Israel, Colombia, and Korea, which is why I got the Diamond vessels, which should have been 12 vessels, to do the same thing the OPVs would have done for $1.2 billion.
Why would a change of Commissioner of Police stop the type of technology you are speaking about that you were putting in place for these drones and air support? Why would a change of Commissioner of Police change that? It just doesn't make sense.
But it did happen. The National Operations Center, the 999 unit, the Commissioner's Command Center, the Operation Command Center, the mobile scanners, the media monitoring unit, the gender-based violence unit that has now been watered down, the online reporting, the police app, the police SOS, special operation response team, the emergency response patrol. They shut down everything. They removed everything. And again, it has to do with political pettiness. And also, there was a strong concern by the certain hierarchy in the police service. This is what Gary is bringing in to transform the police service. We are lucky with that. We've gabardine, and we need to sit down in our place and know our business. I was bringing the police into the 21st century, which is what Dwayne was trying to do as well, and he got pushed back. They couldn't push me back because I understood the environment. So as soon as you started to give me pushback, I will send you on 2 years leave or whatever. As I did with Ola Christopher, because I realized she couldn't keep up with the pace of what I was doing. So
you sent Miss Christopher on leave?
2 years, one time, because she couldn't keep up. She couldn't keep up with the things that I was adhering to.
We never heard that before.
Well, you know now.
Richard?
No,
the man said he sent the current commissioner on leave for 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. She was on. She had listen. Ola Christopher is. This is not a knock. We've been knocking the woman. The woman she placed. Ola Christopher placed. And what I have a concern with.
Don't get us in trouble, Gary.
No. I have a concern about people criticizing female police officers, saying that a police service should not have female commissioners of police. Total nonsense. They were. I could speak about Archie and several others who were DCPs could easily match commissioners anywhere in the Caribbean.
I agree with that.
This nonsense about somebody is feeling because she's a woman totally ridiculous. It is because it is Ola. She placed in the top 20, I think, in 2018 by qualified UK experts who measured her. They gave her 3 out of 15 in mock media conference. They gave her 2 out of 15 or something like that in the interview. So she didn't have the capacity, but this is always the problem, gentlemen. When a prime minister handpicks a president who's now going to handpick a police service commission, this police service commission has an accountant to select a commissioner. They have a financial consultant. They have no knowledge in law enforcement, and they handpick someone who didn't come in the top 20 by experts. So Ola Christopher has been imposed on Trinidad and Tobago. So we must stop trying to demonize Ola Christopher.
Gary, you were also handpicked and imposed too, but we supported you. You were handpicked and imposed.
No, let's get to the facts. I'm glad you said that. I topped I got more points than everyone. I got 82.5%. I got the highest points over everyone who applied.
But there were 3 people considered ahead of you, not so?
You're not listening, Wendell. If you listen, take out the balize, listen. The exam, there was 10 exams. I got the highest points in every single person. I annihilated Stephen Williams. I defeated Harold Phillip. All the people who applied for commissioner of police, I have the points. I got 82.5%. But yet again, this was a police service commission that was appointed by the UNC. That police service commission, when they got the 82.5% and saw that I got the highest. Stephen Williams came second with 76%. I defeated all of them. Mock media conference, interviews, background check, essays, operational report. Everything I defeated them in. The police service commission then says, we are going to bypass the points. We are going to bypass KPMG because we have the authority. So we are going to place Gary Griffith fourth. So they placed me fourth not because of the points on the points on the merit list, but because of their personal curry favor of who they felt should be commissioner of police.
But so you're saying that the UNC would have spited you back then?
I didn't say that, you did.
I just want my second question, Gary, is the issue of the state of emergency, and you indicated that it should be a last resort along that lines. So my question is, not my question. I have let me contextualize it a little bit. In El Salvador, under President Bukele, they have instituted a state of emergency. Now, in El Salvador, in 2019, the murder rate was 2,000 people murdered. In 2020, it was 1,000. 2021, 1,000. 2022, they instituted a state of emergency under President Bukele. It dropped to 459, and in 2023, it dropped by 70% to 159. Now, what El Salvador has done, and because their gangs were pretty violent, is they instituted a state of emergency and they arrested people, something like 70,000 people in terms of gangs. And they placed them in prison, and I think President Bukele was now they've gotten a lot of criticism from a human rights perspective.
Just like myself.
because you have all sorts of issues going on in terms of the right, even though they have a state of emergency running. But he did things like mixing prisoners. He didn't separate gangs in prisons, stuff like that, like what we would do. And a whole series of things that were done. And of course, there is some criticism of it, but of course, the population, he has a lot of support from the population because El Salvador has now become less violent. So I'm contextualizing that in terms of what El Salvador has done, and the world is watching what El Salvador has done. Is there a play, when we say now in a Trinidad and Tobago context, I'm not saying that we replicate that. I'm just giving that as an analysis of a state of emergency being used. In a Trinidad and Tobago context, you said it's a last resort. So my question is, are we at the last resort, one, or we're not there yet? And two, whether a state of emergency has value in terms of what would have taken, in terms of an El Salvador sense, and not necessarily about the human rights abuses, but I just talk, well, the alleged human rights abuses, let me put it that way.
Yeah, so again, okay, so quickly, as it's the value of the state of emergency, it can trigger, a few people figure that a state of emergency automatically means curfew. That is not true. There's no such thing as a limited state of emergency. You could have a state of emergency and you could have a curfew or don't have a curfew. The state of emergency, it allows, however, the input of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force in a greater capacity. But we use this word state of emergency as taboo in Trinidad and Tobago. As I mentioned, there are countries called state of emergencies if they have a small forest fire. But we automatically, once you hear SOE, like, oh my God, it's a terrible thing. So Kamala Prasad mentioning that automatically triggered major concerns because we love to party, we love to socialize, we love to play football. It affects business as well. It is going to affect my business if there's a curfew. But an SOE does not necessarily mean that you're going to have a curfew. That is one. And again, the only value of the SOE is to bring in the army. What I'm stating is that we have to think out of the box. We have the anti-terrorism bill. It's here. This anti-terrorism act, it can do more than a state of emergency. This is what Ecuador just did. By labeling the gangs as terrorists, you now give the army operations to authority to go after them because they are now deemed enemies of the state. And it is true because these gangs have killed, 4,000 odd persons in the last decade. Every single citizen is fearful. Every single parent has to stay up at night to wait until their child comes home. The country is mortified. You have destabilized the country. The country is in total fear. Citizens are being killed in cold blood. You have assault weapons that can kill 35 people in 3 seconds. Nothing could justify that person being a terrorist more than this. So because of that, if we utilize this, there's no need for us to call an SOE. So again, what Kamala Prasad was alluding to is that this government finds a way not to make things happen. So they're going to find a way to discredit the gangs being labeled terrorists. They're going to find a way because remember, this is the same government. We actually had gang leaders actually going to president's house. They still get massive state contracts by this government, which I gave it to them. I told the prime minister, do not give gangs state contracts. And his reply is, the gangs have a right to get state contracts or to apply for state contracts. That is the kind of madness we have with this government.
He didn't use the word gangs have a right to thing. He said any citizen has a right to apply for a contract.
Tomato, Wendell. So if a citizen is a gang member, he's alluding to the gang member has a right.
Well, the police had authority to deal with gang members, but he is speaking from the he was speaking, and I had agreed with him at the time, because although I also agreed with you that people who are involved in criminal activity should not be given state money. But at the point in time, if you don't have the evidence to support it,
madness, Wendell, you know what you're saying? That's like saying the Al Qaeda. If you don't have evidence that this man, if you don't have evidence to arrest this Al Qaeda person, you have a right to build it to paint the White House. There's something called intelligence, brother man. No, Wendell, if you have intelligence to verify that this person is utilizing his funds to commit crime and to purchase more weapons to kill more people, you don't give him a contract because you're saying, wait, we don't have enough evidence to arrest him.
We're talking two things. We're talking about the application for a contract and we're talking about the actual issuance of that contract. That is two things we're talking here. And the Prime Minister was clear back then when he said you can't stop a citizen from applying. The issuance of that contract was left up to, and I had agreed at the point in time, was left up to the issuing agency.
Right.
In
a lot of cases, I could rubbish that. I know you're trying to cover your boy.
No, I don't have to cover the Prime Minister. He's very capable. Trust me.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Wendell, he's not. Keith Rowley will never try to debate with me. He cannot handle criticism. He can't debate. He gets carried away. What he said after.
Dr. Rowley is the Prime Minister who has appeared in front of the media more than any other Prime Minister.
Yes, and then when he does it, he shouts at them, he buffs them, he's arrogant. So please,
but he makes himself available to be asked tough questions. We have asked him.
No, Wendell, he has something called a post-cabinet conference, and they never speak about what happened in cabinet. So he has a post-cabinet conference to bad talk the opposition. The man is a total failure. Come on, man. You call it a post-cabinet press conference, and you never speak about what happened in cabinet. Your post-cabinet press conference is, let me talk to the media to see what could bad talk now. The man is a total disaster. No, anyway, going back point. He then said, you have evidence to arrest the people, well, then they should arrest them. Which is basically, well, look, they have a right to apply, but arrest them if it is that you don't want to give them a contract. There's something called intelligence, and if intelligence could show that these individuals are utilizing their funds to purchase more weapons, hire more gang members, and put hits on other gang members to get their contracts, you blacklist them.
Yeah. Well, again, that was up to the agency to deal with, and I had agreed with that. You understand? Yeah. Because there's a famous picture. I don't know, the man, God rest his soul, he passed away, I think this weekend or last week, right? Of a then Minister of Housing touring an area in a police station, a police post. I think you were there. I'm not sure, but he was acting as Prime Minister, right? At the point in time. So all governments have done that mollycoddling, Gary. All.
And what I'm stating, Wendell, is just that it has to stop and it must end now. And I give the assurance to the country because this government, we have seen it. The contracts, I was the commissioner, it was littered. You give them $5 million contract to build a $50,000 box train. They're not using it to help their community. They're purchasing more weapons, buying more drugs, paying off more police officers to cover their drug blocks, putting hits on other gang members to get their state contracts. So the government is assisting in aiding and abetting the criminal enterprise in this country. When it has happened with governments, it started in 2006 by calling them community leaders. It ends now. I give the assurance to the country that in the incoming government, it stops now. I give the assurance that this government is not going to push the Anti-Terrorism Act. I am going to turn gang members into terrorists, and they're going to be treated as enemies of the state. The Defense Force will now have the operational capacity and the numerical superiority to press them, to suppress them, and if not arrest them, to neutralize them. This country is going to be cleaned up.
Have you officially linked or joined arms with the UNC?
No, but remember, since the local government election, when we got 190,000 votes, annihilating the PNM by 60,000 votes to the 130,000. Since then, what are you laughing at? So that's 60,000 annihilation of 60,000 more people, which means that for every 5 persons who voted, 3 voted for the UNC or NT and 2 voted for the PNM. That's bad licks. So with that, it shows that the strategic alliance works. It shows that that third constituency working alongside another major political party will always defeat the PNM. It happened in 86, it happened in 2010, and it's going to happen again.
Okay. All right. Any more questions?
I have 2 questions coming up. Can Gary explain the FUL license renewal?
Yeah, sure. What is being done? This is something that, no, I agree with that. This is important. Gentlemen, we have about 20,000 persons with firearms. And many of them, probably a few thousand, have never held their firearm in 20 years. The only time they hold their firearm is to take it to the station to renew. That is not right. You must, if it is you have a firearm, you must be using it to be trained and be qualified to understand how to clean your weapon, how to have a proper shot, because you could shoot the wrong person, and knowing how to clear your firearm to prevent a negligent discharge. All these situations with negligent discharges in police stations because police officers, they don't do proper training on a range. And I realize that, which is why I got the FUL card with a chip to ensure that every single person with a firearm must go on a range at a specific time to make sure that they understand the workings of the weapon. Likewise, somebody might get a firearm 20 years ago, And next thing, there's a difference in their finances, there's a difference in their domestic situation, their mental capacity. You must continue to make sure that the person is qualified to have a firearm. So that is not the issue. The problem lies is that they throw the card with the chip. So you go back to a paper trail. Going back to a paper trail means as an element for corruption. They then ask for a certificate of competence without a template to show what is a certificate of competence. What that is going to open the window for corruption. So the people who may have the capability to give it will now charge you, hey, just give me $1,000 here, take it, thank you. So it defeats the purpose of making sure the person is competent by not stating, you must be on the range, you must fire 5 shots, you must clear your weapon, we must see you strip your weapon down, let's see you clear your weapon, clean your weapon. That is not being done. You come, give a letter and you send it off. You're opening the window for corruption. Additionally, bringing in the Form 1 means that you're asking the persons to reapply. That is madness. It is similar to, as I said, you have a driver's permit and then Transport Commissioner says, okay, I think everybody now must be retested. I want to see you be tested now to see if it is you're worthy to have a driver's permit, which there's nothing wrong with that. But by the time it takes that period, half of the people who applied, who have a FUL, will now be told, well, you have to keep your weapon in the station until the commissioner re-endorses your initial reapplication. It is total madness, but what it is again, going back, you spent 2.5 years with your Stanley John Jokey report. You brought your audit committee report that was full of lies, which is why you wanted to go to Parliament to read out the lies, because that's the one place that you could read lies and not be sued, like what you did with Emailgate. So the reports, massive well-oiled criminal industry, mass corruption, not one senior officer has been charged, not one firearm holder has been charged, not one firearm dealer has been charged. But the PNM is good at that. We are incompetent, we can't perform, but them thief, them corrupt, them is drink. That is what the PNM do. You say the same lie over and over. So that is what this is about. It's a desperate attempt now of bitterness, witch hunting, fishing expeditions. So now you're going to target and victimize the firearm holders because you couldn't find anything. Welcome. Well done, PNM.
All right. Well, Gary Griffith, thank you so much for being on the Power Breakfast show this morning. Always a pleasure.
Look, my friend Paul. Pablo.
Paul is back. You actually get Paul to come back on thing. Yeah.
I was not about to sit down and read news,
The interview is finished. Have a good day, Gary. I like that top you have on there. Could you share with me the source of the apparel?
The only good thing about that top is the red zipper.
I know you'll see that. They kind of pink, kind of wash out. Later, gentlemen.
All right, take care.
All right, guys. Folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God. Bye-bye.
You have a great day. Be safe.
All right.
Yes, yeah, have a fantastic day. Reminding you that theater starts on Ash Wednesday, which is also Valentine's Day. And we start with the start of Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Comedy Week at RSRR Productions. And it's all being held at Central Bank Auditorium. Wednesday to Friday will be Nicky Crosby. Still 50-ish and still hot AF, the Carnival edition. And then Bacchanal Bubble and Bad Behavior on the weekend, the Saturday and Sunday. Of course, you can check RSRR Productions theater page for further information. Have a fantastic day, whatever you do, and remember to smile and laugh. It is great for your health.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. All right, let's get into our 8 o'clock news brief.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It's 8:05. These are headlines making news to the hour. 3 men are shot dead at Paradise Heights in Moor. 5 other persons are injured in the attack. Gary Griffith says declaring a state of emergency should be the last option to fight crime in the country. He calls for an amendment to the Anti-Terrorism Act and to treat gang members as terrorists in the country. Meanwhile, Minister of Energy and Energy Industry Stuart Young dismisses the idea of an SRE, and Education Minister Dr. Nian Gasbidoli confirms that the parent of 2 students at Port of Spain's primary and secondary school have been treated for tuberculosis. We'll have major news coming up at 12 noon.